welcome to the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
My name's Ian.
So what kind of goofy name did you use on the last episode?
Bob Diggler.
Bob Diggler? And
yeah, insurance salesman. Insurance salesman.
And now you're Ian.
I figured I'd go back to my roots.
Your roots? What, your real fucking name?
Yeah, well, a version of it. Sure, why not? I'm just trying to keep things interesting.
Is that really, that's your way of keeping it interesting, Ian, really?
Well, I'm not a very interesting person, so I'm doing my best here.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's like, pulling teeth with you sometimes. So, any questions or comments, you email us at contact at Life in General Podcast. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook and Podbean and Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And by the way, I did not put that our last music episode on YouTube.
Because we played music on it?
Yeah, because I don't want to get flagged.
Yeah.
And we already got flagged once, and if you get flagged multiple times, you can lose your channel. And
fuck YouTube.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of YouTube. I don't like the way they...
I don't like their business policies,
yeah,
their
that's
practices.
What I mean.
I watch a bunch of shit on YouTube, but I don't like the fact that they'll flag a channel or a video for cuss words, but they and demonetize it. So basically, you put up a video, and
so what you're saying is we can never make money off our shows.
Well, no, right. Well, and it's just an example, but they flag it for all kinds of things. But if they demonetize your video, they're still getting revenue from it.
Yeah.
So basically, they're saying you can't curse, but we're still going to make money off of the advertising that we're putting on your fucking video.
So they're like an insurance company. They're making, insurance companies make money off of denying your claims.
Right.
So the YouTube is making money off of denying,
saying your video's not
your money,
advertising appropriate, but we're still going to collect money off of putting advertising on your video.
Yeah.
So by demonetizing it, you can still watch it, and there's still commercials on it. So they're still making fucking money.
I'm surprised there's not
an alternative,
another one that's come around.
I'm surprised too,
because probably what happens is as soon as someone makes one, YouTube probably goes and buys them, and then shuts the doors on them.
Right. I wouldn't sell them. I would if I had the resources to do that, to make up a website like a YouTube.
Sure, you would. If you created a YouTube like channel and YouTube came along and said, "Hey, we're going to throw $10 million, $15 million your way," which is chump change to YouTube, you would be like, "No, fuck you. I want to keep my little dollar website here."
Right. So what I would do is I take the $15 million, close the doors, and then open up another one.
Well, I'm sure that there's probably agreements that you'd have to sign to where you couldn't do that.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I have pretty strong integrity. I could see myself turning down the money for the long term.
I doubt it.
I don't know.
If someone I'm
not saying I would 100% because I am human, but I would struggle with it.
You can say that until they.
I know. What I'm saying is I'd struggle with it. I would struggle with it.
But like I said, though, there are other like video sites, but there's nothing like that
right.
Where it's all like user content,
right? And free to.
Because what's like the Vivo or whatever it is, it's all
Vivio, yeah.
It's all like music.
It's not all music, but yeah, it started as all music.
Well, what else is on there then?
There's people who post videos on there too. I think so.
I thought it was Vivo or something. Isn't it Vivo?
Vimeo. I don't know. I think it's Vimeo.
Well, no, I'll look. You keep talking.
What am I supposed to talk about? If you're not interacting with me, how am I supposed to have a conversation?
It is Vivo. It's Vevo.
Oh.
Vivo.
What's Vimeo then?
I don't know what Vimeo is.
Vimeo's similar, I think. You talk now. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, because I actually know what the hell's going on around here.
Do you?
So we've done a couple of idol shows before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the first one was, Ian?
You did No, I did Jefferson. Did I do Jefferson?
Nope.
You did Jefferson. No, I did Jefferson.
You did Jefferson.
And you did Roosevelt.
Yep.
Ah, see, I know some shit.
It took you a long time to get there. Do you remember what the second one was?
Vimeo, but it's a plan thing. You pay for that. Never mind. I do not remember the second one was. I know we did.
It should be really easy because
Ian Anderson and Elvis.
Yeah, that's the second one.
Okay, so this is the third.
This is the third time we. So when this Ian proposed this idea, like
it's supposed to be like once a month.
Way back, it was supposed to be like a monthly thing we were gonna do. And and this is our 114th show, and we've done
basically we've averaged one a year.
Yeah, but
just about. Yep, that's okay. It's it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it.
Well, who really is?
I'm sure there's some people out there who might cry a little bit about it.
I'm trying to look back and see, because I thought it wasn't that long ago when we actually did that. I guess I actually have.
It's been a while.
How about September 30th, episode 90? So it wasn't that long ago.
It was a while ago.
Well, the first time we did it was like episode 10 or something like that.
It was a long time ago.
That was a really long time ago.
Yeah, that was. I think you still had the card table down here.
Hey, for some reason our first 13 episodes aren't on. I'm not able to pull them up on Apple Podcast. Are you able to look up on Podbean?
Let me take a look here and see. Sorry.
Because I know it was sometime. I know it was before episode 13. It had been one of our first couple of episodes.
Let me take a look here.
I'll have to look and see why all of our episodes aren't on there. That kind of irritates me.
Mm-hmm. All the way back to, you're saying the first 13 aren't there?
Yeah, so it's sometime in the first 12 episodes.
Well, this goes back to January 8th, 2017 on Podbean. So that was our first episode.
So 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, I found it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So episode 10. I was right.
Was it?
Yeah, episode 10 was our first Idols episode. Episode 90 was our second Idols episode. Now episode 114, we're doing it again.
Okay.
So it's a little. We're starting to become more frequent with the.
I guess, but it's still been under 3 years since our first one, so we are averaging one every year so far.
Yes, you're
averaging.
Yes,
so.
Yes, because this is the third time, and we've been doing this for 3 years.
And the last one was done in April of 17,
yes.
So it's been It hasn't quite been 3 years, so 3 in 3 years. So yeah,
it's nice that you can do that kind of math that quickly in your head, Ian.
Is it impressive?
It is very impressive. Fucking kills me. Absolutely kills me. So who did you decide to do yours on, Ian?
Who did you decide to do yours on?
I asked you first.
I asked you second. Yes. I told you the two that I was thinking about.
I don't remember which one you did, though.
I didn't decide until today.
Ronald Reagan.
Yes, because he's an idol of mine.
Yes.
Yes. Good old Ronnie Reagan.
And when I look at it, I don't necessarily do I guess I don't do like an idol of mine. I guess I do like
someone I respect. And
yes.
That's what
an idol of American society or something along those lines.
Or world. I mean, some of these are world-renowned people.
Okay.
So
mine have all been Americans, but.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not the patriot that you are.
Absolutely, you're not patriotic.
I'm not. And to be fair, the two out of the two that I could have chosen, one was British. I went with the American one.
So which one?
George Carlin.
Which one was the other one you were going?
Ozzy. I was thinking about doing Ozzy.
Oh, okay. All right. So you did George Carlin. I did mine. I did Jackie Robinson on mine. Did you want to start? Or
no, you go first.
Why do I have to?
Because I went first on the first two.
No, you didn't.
I did. Listen to him again.
Whatever. Fine, I'll go first. So I guess coming down, I don't know how many people did I have on my list. I had like 6 different people. I was trying to
5 or 6, yeah, for sure.
And I kind of came down to Jackie Robinson because the baseball season's right around the corner, and I was trying to find somebody that not only had a huge impact not only on his sport but also on society as a whole. And there's a lot of things. I didn't realize that Jackie Robinson, first off, was as old as he was when he started playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, he was 28 years old.
Yeah, that's a bit old, especially back then.
But and he's got an interesting childhood and family relationship with sports and greater society also. So, I mean, I guess I can go all the way back. So Jack Roosevelt Robinson, he was born January of 1919 in Georgia, if my memory serves me correct. I was just watching the Jackie Robinson movie earlier today, 42. I think he said it was Georgia. But anyway, I know his family was sharecroppers, and his dad, Jackie was the youngest of 5. His dad left in 1920, I believe, and his mother moved him and his brothers and sisters to California. And actually, they moved into a rather affluent part of Pasadena, even though his entire family was poor. And it was actually Jackie's older brother, Matthew, was the one that kind of inspired him to get into sports. And Matthew is actually kind of interesting because, and I didn't know this until just recently, he actually won the silver medal in the 200-meter dash in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin.
Oh, okay.
He actually finished second to Jesse Owens.
Really? Yeah.
Which, and if you don't know that side of it, the whole Jesse Owens kind of story was really interesting because it was just before the start of World War II.
It was Nazi Germany.
It was in Nazi Germany, and this whole idea of a superior race and all these other things.
Yeah, the Aryan nation.
And you've got this black guy comes out there and just destroys the
everybody.
field. Yeah.
Well, obviously, 2 black guys destroyed the field if he came in second.
Yeah, he came in second,
so
which is really interesting because I didn't know that. So
I didn't either. Yeah, I've always heard the Jesse Owens story. I didn't know.
Yeah. So it was really kind of interesting that Jackie Robinson had a tie into it that way also. And so, like I said, so Matthew was the one that kind of inspired him to get into playing sports. Jackie in high school, he actually lettered in football, basketball, baseball, and track. And so after he graduates high school, he goes to Pasadena Junior College, where he's there for 2 years. And his other brother, Frank, dies in a motorcycle accident, actually. And it was after Frank's death that Jackie decided to, in honor of his brother, transfer to UCLA. And Jackie Robinson became the first athlete at UCLA to earn a varsity letter in 4 sports. So it's kind of even early on, he's doing things that other people hadn't done at the time. So just prior to graduation, because of financial issues, Jackie drops out of college, and so he accepted a job. I don't remember what it was, some kind of like sports administration or something like that at I don't remember if it was another school. I think it was another school. But anyway, for the next 2 years, he's playing semi-pro football in California and Hawaii until he gets drafted by the Army in 42. So it was kind of at this point where Jackie Robinson kind of not only is doing things in the sports world, this is where he also goes into the societal thing also. Because in 44, he almost gets court-martialed, which I think this is something, this part of it is something I think they really should have touched more on. It was like one line in the movie. But in 42, Jackie's down at Fort Hood in Texas and gets on a bus and refuses to move to the back of the bus. This is 44. So this is 11 years before Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
And he he almost gets court-martialed over it, ends up getting discharged in November 44. So, and that's what I mean. There's this whole part, years of his life because in the movie, it starts with him being signed by not signed, but playing for the Kansas City Monarchs.
Right. And being scouted, basically.
And being scouted by Branch Rickey. And it was, and it just kind of happened to coincide. He's coaching at this point, he gets discharged. He's coaching basketball in Austin, Texas, and he gets signed by the Kansas City Monarchs in 45. Only plays there 1 year. Bats almost 400, and that's at that time is when Branch Rickey he's going around. He's looking for someone that not only has the ability to play the sport, but also has the temperament and the mentality to kind of go through the bullshit he knew a black athlete would in the mid 40s.
Yeah.
And so he's brought in. He's signed by the Dodgers. He goes through the minors for 1 year and then moves up to Major League Baseball, and obviously kind of the rest is kind of history.
Right.
And it was, but it's like I said though, it's not only it's interesting the impact he obviously had on sports, but even after he retires, he was active in NAACP, and there's lots of other like social issues and social causes he kind of went through, and it's just I feel like he's someone that's celebrated in society, but it's also somebody that's celebrated in society, but you still don't really know a whole lot about. Right. And that's kind of what I found really kind of interesting.
That probably sums up a lot of African Americans, historical African Americans. Rosa Parks did one thing.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King kind of did one thing. They don't really expand on the history of Black history as much as they probably should. I'm not a huge sports guy, but I like baseball, and I really like baseball movies.
Yeah.
So when 42 came out, there was most of that story I was familiar with, but it really opened my eyes to, I never really took into account that he'd be so hated.
Oh yeah,
by people that shouldn't hate
and a lot
him,
of the like, there's a scene in the movie 42 where I think it's the manager of the Cincinnati Reds is throwing like racial slurs at him the whole game. That actually happened,
right?
And he ended up doing a photo op with the manager. They kind of made him come together. That was all true.
Right.
That was all in the movie. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting because Jackie Robinson didn't have a long baseball career. He only played in the majors for 10 years, but he was extremely productive in different ways in baseball because he didn't have like outstanding numbers. He never hit more than 19 home runs in a season. He only had over 100 RBIs in one season, one of his 10 seasons. It was just his defensive ability and how smart he was at playing the game. I think it really separated him from other players in his era.
Right.
But he ended up winning. He won Rookie of the Year in 47. He was an all-star every year from 49 to 54. And he was the first black player to win Most Valuable Player in 1949. So he did. There was enough on the field to kind of warrant, obviously, him.
He broke through barriers.
Yes, absolutely. But no, that's I didn't have a whole lot on him. I just thought that was really kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, when I came up with the idea for icons, it's just kind of, what is he? The only thing I would say you might want to add is, you kind of did, but what about him?
I was trying to see. I was trying to find somebody, and I was going back and forth between like him. I don't know who else I had, like
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs and some other people. I was looking for somebody that not only had something obvious that they had done in society, but something else that was bigger, bigger than them, bigger than just a kind of a person.
Yeah, and I don't even look at. I'm just looking at people I respect or admire. I mean, I can point to those points, at least in this case.
Well, no, I was just, and I'm not saying I didn't do that for obviously the last one. I don't think Elvis didn't do anything like great in his life other than like invent like banana and mayonnaise sandwiches or whatever the fuck he was doing.
That was gross. That just sounds gross. But anyway.
Oh, I know, banana and mayonnaise. That's what my wife eats. What did he? I don't remember what he ate.
Peanut butter and banana. I think
maybe that's what it was.
It was something. That's okay. Peanut butter and banana is fine. Two things you don't like, I think, right? You don't like peanut butter and you don't like bananas?
Correct.
Yeah. I know you didn't like bananas.
I don't like banana and mayonnaise sandwiches either.
No, who should? No one should like those. That sounds disgusting.
So there's a guy I worked with in Tennessee. He would buy those cans of like the half pears.
Okay.
And you know how it's got like the divot in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So he would put mayonnaise in like the little divot, and then he would put shredded cheese over top of it and eat it.
It just sounds so gross.
See,
it's that kind of mentality that gets you Hawaiian pizza. You get pineapple on pizza.
Pineapple doesn't belong on pizza.
No, it doesn't. But it's that mentality. mixing
I don't know.
salty things with sweet things.
He was from Alabama, so
I guess you could just chalk it up to that.
There was another guy. Speaking of things that are disgusting, I worked with another guy that was from Tennessee, but so the cicadas were really bad down there every 7 years or whatever it was. Like there'd be like piles of them on the side of the road. They're so bad. Him and his wife would go around with a garbage bag and scoop them up, go home and batter them, fry them, and eat them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I guess that doesn't sound disgusting in the end.
It's not something I would do, but I've actually there. I mean, there's many cultures, many places around the world where bugs are eaten as a primary diet. That's a fact. There's also been a lot of.
I guess we eat sea bugs.
Do we?
Crabs.
I wouldn't really call those, but yeah, I guess you could argue.
They're kind of like
it. Yeah, I mean it's similar principle, I guess. But there's a lot of movement towards trying to establish insects as a dietary option for Americans as well.
Yeah,
because it could lead to helping with reduction of carbon footprint with farming and let's face it, it would help with hunger issues in the world too. So I don't know. So I'm like maybe a little bit more open to that idea. I wouldn't eat it. I wouldn't try it, but it just on a philosophical level, I'm more open to it.
Going back real quick to Jackie Robinson though, it was really interesting. Like he was an extremely versatile baseball player. Because I didn't know this either. He played every position over the course of his career, except for pitcher, catcher, and center field. He played every other position on the field.
Interesting.
So that was kind of all I had, though.
That's it?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, I guess I could do mine now. I did Mr. George Carlin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's people our age and older are obviously going to know who George Carlin is.
Yeah. I would say anyone younger than us, not so much.
Well, I would. Anyone in their 20s and younger, maybe not.
I would say like mid-30s and younger.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you'd have a hard time.
He's been dead 12 years almost.
But he was not very relevant for the years before that.
He was.
No, he wasn't.
He did HBO specials every other year consistently for 30 years. I mean, you don't get that unless you're relevant. But he was born in 1937. He died in 2008. He was 71.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull an Ian and bang the table there.
That's okay. I'll do it too.
Asshole.
I'm not really good at like going over like people's histories and stuff. He's obviously a stand-up comedian.
Well, go over some. Give us some kind of backstory to him.
Would you let me finish? He was born in 1937. His dad left when he was 2 months old because he was an alcoholic. He was raised pretty much by his mother and his grandfather.
Where was he born at?
New York.
He's from New York?
Yes. Kind of the hood of New York, really. It says Manhattan, but he grew up in White Harlem. Okay. He joined the U.S. Air Force, and I forgot how he...
what year?
Oh, it doesn't say. He was discharged in 57.
Okay.
It was a general discharge, so it wasn't honorary or dishonorable.
What year was he born?
37.
I guess I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah, he was 71 when he died in 2008.
Huh.
He, I forgot exactly the wording he used when he talks about his military career, but he says when he left, it's a mutual decision for him to part ways with the U.S. military.
It was an honorable discharge, though.
It was a general discharge.
Oh, was it?
That's what it says, general. Oh. So he probably just did his 4 years and got out. He had been court-martialed 3 times, though.
Oh, Jesus. For what, does it say?
He was labeled as unproductive.
That's funny.
Non-judicial punishments and reprimands he also received. It doesn't say what he was just court-martialed for, but he 3 times, which sounds about right, actually. But yeah, he always joked that it was a mutual decision to move on.
That's funny.
Started his comedy career basically at about 1959. He met Jack Burns, who was a DJ. He was a DJ. He did a 2-man show with Burns. It was Burns and Carlin at the Playboy Club Tonight.
Really? Say how long they did it together?
Started in May 1960, and they parted ways after about 2 years. So he created a lot of like characters around that time. An Indian sergeant, which I don't know any of these characters. I'm not well versed on his like
earlier,
like pre 1970 career, really, when he was suit and tie, on the Jack Benny show and all that fun stuff. When it was clean, when his comedy was clean, I didn't really. Mm. He did Jack Parr with the Tonight Show up into the 60s and late 60s, which I've seen clips of. They're funny. He did his Hippy Dippy Weatherman on there.
I'm trying to remember do you remember what record that was of his I had?
You had Class Clown, I think.
So that was 72.
Yeah, I have on vinyl because I picked it up at Dearborn Music. Toledo Window Box.
No, I don't think that was the one I had.
I'm pretty sure it's Class Clown.
Which one was it that had the Hippy Dippy Weatherman on it?
Class Clown. Pretty sure. I have to look where I'm not in that spot yet, but
okay.
In my notes, but
because I'm looking at the track listing on that one, I don't see that on here. No, the ones on Class Clown.
Well, since you're probably at his discography, could you just list off some of his early 70s records?
Oh shit.
Toledo Window Box was 74.
FM and AM was 72. Class Clown was 72. Occupation Fool was 73. Toledo Window Box was 74.
That's what I thought, yeah.
An Evening with Wally Londo featuring Bill Slazzo was 75.
It was AM/FM is the one you had then.
Was it?
I believe so.
Yep, it was. I have to look at the cover.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, and once he gets into the 70s, I mean, his stand-up really kind of changed. He kind of got to a point where it no longer became a matter of just making people laugh, but he wanted to really make people think.
Yeah.
And they spent really legitimately the rest of his career and life doing that. His humor became more cerebral, more questioning, and a lot more nihilistic too, as far as his opinions about everything. I would even classify him in many ways as an anarchist, at least as far as his stand-up goes. You know how most people are like one way on stage and another way off stage. Mm-hmm. But a lot of interviews that he did, especially near the end of his life, that were just serious interviews, kind of mirrored a lot of, in a much more serious tone, some of the things he would make jokes about and express humor in on a stand-up. Specifically towards like the government and society as a whole. And believe me, his views were very nihilistic on that aspect. But what the thing that gets me is kind of like what you were saying about Jackie Robinson, is how it's not so much who he was and what he did, because what he did was special. With Carlin, the same thing. What he did was special, but there were other artists doing. Richard Pryor was pushing boundaries and all that. But when it comes to pushing
boundaries, I would say Richard Pryor probably did more than probably anyone in that.
At least for as a black performer, for sure. George Carlin, if you talk to most people, most comedians, even today, and ask them who their idols were, who influenced them, or who were some of their influences, you're always going to get George Carlin, Richard Pryor.
Yeah,
always those two. And I've always identified a bit more with George Carlin, just because his humor is more appealing to me. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I love Richard Pryor too, but George Carlin just always has been I don't know. I think it started when I was a kid, because like I said, his HBO specials consistently every 2 years for 30 years were, it was something that like my parents, my dad specifically, when they were on, he would on HBO, he'd record them so that people would come over and watch them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to watch them at that time because I was too young. But even at that point, I remember George Carlin. And as I got older and was able to start appreciating and even viewing some of his stand-up stuff, hugely, hugely funny to me and impactful.
And like a lot of his early 70s stuff is like really fucking good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even today, you can go back and listen to it.
And yeah, it still stands up.
It still does.
To be fair, his very last stand-up, which I can't remember the name offhand, it was recorded in November in 07, and he died in 08. And it's oddly like a step above some of the stuff that came previous to it, and more in tune with some of the stuff he was doing in the 80s, or in the late 70s, early 80s. Which I always found weird. Like, it was almost like it was like his swan song in a sense, and being higher quality. Not that his stuff was ever low quality. His stuff was always really good.
Yeah, it was.
But, even on, everyone has an off year, and even some of his off specials, by comparison, this was better than those. I think he pushed the envelope enough in terms of questioning how people react to certain things, specifically like language. Mm-hmm. The one thing he's always said that, and he said this in comedy, this is all comedy, but the quality of your speech is representative of the quality of your thoughts. And I've always held true to that. I still do. I still do the and stuff like that. But
you drive me crazy, and
I do.
Like I can already tell you, I'm gonna have to edit the shit out of the show because you've already said so many times. Ian also likes to say That's another one of his favorite ones. And then that's another one.
Okay.
The Ian classics.
I do better in a conversational way than I do in a monologue kind of a way. And you do it too.
When we started this show, I was equally terrible.
Right.
But after editing it, I now
catch yourself.
I try to make a conscious effort not to absolutely cut the ums out of my vernacular, but
to try
to limit it.
Right. And I've noticed with you, you'll get silence rather than an
No, what I do is I repeat a word.
Yeah, you've done that
I'll
too.
say the, and then instead of saying
that's too much thinking for me. George Carlin, another thing. Another thing that George Carlin...
I'm talking about it, and he goes fucking right into one.
I'm trying to get back to the topic at hand here. One of the things that...
When do we ever do that?
Well, we don't when you keep fucking interrupting me.
Well, I still don't... I'm still trying to figure out what album it was that I had of his.
You did. It was F.A.M.E.
I'm looking at the track listing, though, and it doesn't...
The cover of it was him just sitting in a chair.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, that one. That's the one you had.
But I don't remember the tracks. I don't remember that being the... Maybe I had another one.
You might have. But I know you had that one. And like I said, I picked up Toledo Window Dressing at Dearborn Music about 6 months to a year ago. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anywho, George Carlin is also should be well known as the... Now I can't stop doing it.
Oh, my gosh.
He was the very first host of Saturday Night Live.
Was he really?
Yes.
What year was that?
1975. It was October 11th. And I believe that it doesn't say who the musical guest was here, but I believe it was Paul Simon.
Really?
I believe so. It was Paul Simon.
I was never a big Paul Simon fan.
I like some of his music. Some of his Simon and Garfunkel stuff, some of his later solo stuff. His last album, which came out 4 years ago, isn't too bad.
No?
I listened to the whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, he has that going for him. He actually had... If you don't stop laughing, because I can't stop it. I'm not...
That was a really... Like, you could see it on the screen.
I'm nowhere self-aware enough to be able to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm just talking, all right? So... You're going to get silence if I can't say That's all I'm going to say. So it's either silence or ums, whatever you prefer, but I'll do my best to not do it. He's been in some movies. He was in a Richard Pryor movie. I think it was Richard Pryor. Really low budget movie called Car Wash.
I think I vaguely remember
Yeah,
that.
It was in the late 70s, I believe.
Yeah.
We, as our generation would know him from, was he played Rufus in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yep, absolutely.
And
which is a really underrated movie.
It really is. And he was in the sequel, which is okay.
Yeah.
He's barely in the sequel. That's why I don't think I like it as much. But, well, he's not really that much in the first one, but he's in less of the sequel. He has one of the best lines in Bill and Ted. And it's all about his delivery, because I think either he may have even written it. I don't know. But if it wasn't, it was written for him specifically, because it's his dialogue, his delivery of it, and it's to the effect that he's explaining the future and how It's like this utopia. He's like, the air is clean, the water's clean, even the dirt is clean.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
it's just George Carlin's delivery of that.
No one else could deliver it
exactly,
that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, maybe this is where some younger people might get it or know George Carlin, was his work with Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Jay and Silent Bob, it was a cameo.
Yeah.
And then and people, I don't know why people hate this fucking movie, because it's not a bad movie. It's Jersey Girl. But
I don't think I've ever seen it.
George Carlin is fucking brilliant in that movie.
Yeah.
Because he's playing completely against type, and he's doing it wonderfully.
Yeah.
But that being said, his Dogma role and his Jay and Silent Bob role especially is very memorable. Because in Jay and Silent Bob, he's the one who tells them you got to offer head to get hitchhiking. That's the rule of the road. And they're like, what happens if you don't make with the head? He goes, well, if you don't make with the head. Anyway, just brilliant stuff. Again, it's all about delivery too.
I didn't realize he had 3 heart attacks.
Yeah, and especially I think they were all in a 5 or 6 year period.
No, 78, 80,
oh, wow, I didn't realize.
78, 82, and 91.
I knew about the 81 or the 91 one, and I thought he had one even later, but that's what ended up killing him too.
And I didn't realize he had drug problems later in his career. I knew he did earlier in his career. Yeah. But in 2004, he went to rehab for alcohol and Vicodin.
Yep. Yeah, he always had issues with drugs. I mean,
I knew he did earlier in his career.
There's a story of I don't know if it was with his first wife or what, but he was in a hotel room and he was doing so much coke that it was spilling all over the place. And he was snorting it out of the carpeting of the fucking hotel.
I know people have done that before.
Yeah, yeah, just those kind of drug problems. Some might say,
the good
what's
old
the
days.
problem? There's no problem there.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of the old bug of sugar.
But even up until his death, whenever he wrote, sorry, that was me messing with some, he always, regardless of how clean he was, he always would smoke a joint right after he got done writing his material. He'd finish his show, when it was all written out, he'd smoke a joint as I
wonder why that is.
don't know, just a little ritual of his.
Huh.
He always said he always had a joint ready for it.
I didn't realize he was in Cars.
Was he?
Yeah.
Well, he's not really in it. He does a voice in it.
Yeah, he did the voice of Fillmore.
Oh, I didn't. I never really saw.
Now that I think about it, though, it does sound like him.
Yeah.
He was in Aristocrats.
That's going back a ways. That was
2005. So it must have been one of the sequels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jersey Girl.
Jersey Girl
He was in
always,
Scary Movie 3.
Yes, I never saw that one. But he also even had his own TV show. It was called The George Carlin Show.
Yeah.
He played a taxi cab driver, and it was.
He played a taxi driver in Car Wash.
Did he?
Yeah.
I liked the show. I don't think it went more than one season. It might have gone 2, but I watched it when it was on, and I enjoyed it considerably.
That?
90s, early 90s.
Oh yeah, yeah. It says
94.
It says 94 to 95.
Yep. It had
he played George O'Grady.
Yeah, and that was a tribute to his grandfather. His
grandfather
was Irish, very Irish, and I remember liking the show. I've not been able to find it because it's not on DVD or anything. But I haven't been able to find any clips of it or anything. I've looked for it.
Huh. It was on Fox, so it's got to be on one of the Fox. It's got to be on one of their services somewhere. Maybe.
Well, Disney Plus owns Fox now, so it's hard to say.
That's true.
It wasn't before,
but it could be on FXX or something like one of those.
Oh, maybe, which is on Hulu now. I'll have to take a look. Hulu's got all the FX stuff now.
Yeah.
I'll take a look and see, but it'd be interesting to go back and rewatch some of those old episodes because, like I said, I watched it when it was new. It was on because I think it was on either right before or right after Married with Children. It was when Married with Children was in its last few seasons.
Yeah. It ran January of 94 to July of 95.
Yeah. So it was really just one season.
Yeah. Two seasons and 27 episodes.
Yeah. So. He had a pretty extensive career, but I think his stand-up is really what sets him above.
Absolutely, that's what he's
his
known
influence
for.
on comedians across the board. Some might say that he gave them the okay to be more vulgar, But I think with
I don't know about
George
that.
Carlin, well, that's when vulgarity really started taking off, is right after him, say like the early 80s.
But I think
And that was
when
post.
when I think of like vulgar comedians, Richard Pryor is the first one that comes to my mind.
Perhaps, but they're both in the same. They're both same mold, really.
I know
as
that.
far as when it
But
was.
I feel like Richard Pryor was more of a prominent person.
I think Richard Pryor was
that.
more. He used his humor more in a shock value kind of way.
But I think that kind of drew more eyes to him.
Oh, maybe. But George Carlin, I mean, he did the seven words you can't say on television.
No.
You know, he created that, and
And
now
that was early 70s.
early 70s, and now most of those words can be said on television and are said on television, which is amazing. You almost have to wonder, would that be the case if it hadn't been for someone like him?
Well, I don't know about that, but
well, I mean,
I think there's a natural progression to a lot of it.
yeah, but it's all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And Carlin, Pryor, those are the two. Lenny Bruce, maybe to a smaller extent.
Yeah,
That's where it started.
7 words you can never say on television. That was on that was actually on Class Clowns. So that was 72.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I don't. You can't say that society would be different without him, but he pushed boundaries and made things acceptable that weren't necessarily acceptable.
Is any of his stuff available online? Like any of the streaming services?
You can YouTube a lot of his stuff.
No, I mean like his albums. Is it on
It's on Spotify.
Is
Spotify's got some of his stuff for sure. Apple Music's probably got it too. I've listened to him on Spotify. I don't know what they have exactly, but I know that I've listened to him on there. But I would say
Class Clowns on Apple Music.
I would say that George Carlin also helped. Not helped, but a lot of things, questions he brought up, I don't necessarily agree with his views, but it helped me. It allowed me or forced me to think about certain things
in a different way.
Which
that's what comedy is supposed to do.
That's what it's supposed to do. It's not what it does.
No.
You watch comedy nowadays, and I swear I've not seen a decent, good comedian, with the exception of Jim Jeffries.
It's been a while.
And even Jim Jeffries isn't quite there yet. Yeah. But at least he's not. His last stand-up was all about, like, well, I got a kid now. And that's what fucking comedy is. Girlfriends or kids. Yeah. That's all it is. And it just drives me nuts because there's not any real good societal comedians out there.
I'm sure there are. They're just not getting any.
They're not getting the play.
Yeah, they're not getting
the
play.
Jim Jeffries, his stand-up from a few years back, brilliant.
Yeah. But then again, I don't have, like, Comedy Central or anything like that anymore, so I don't see any kind of comedy.
I have it. I never watch it.
I guess the most exposure I ever really had in recent years would be, what was that comedy reality TV show they had? Last Comic Standing. They had some really good comedians come through there. Eliza Schlesinger came through there. She's really good. There's been quite a few other ones. But
I don't know. Maybe
Amy Schumer came through there too.
One
of the first seasons.
I don't find her that funny.
She's her last. I don't think I really liked her last special.
Or maybe some of her early stuff was like, I get it, but it's kind of like, because she's an attractive woman, but she's a full-figured woman. There's only so far you can take that humor of being not a skinny girl. You know what I mean?
Well,
being a fat girl.
So
I mean, that's her shtick. She's not fat,
but not really. It wasn't her shtick for a long time.
It was for a bit. And
but her special before last, I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of them, and it just didn't work for me.
I'm generally not this is going to sound bad, but I'm generally not a big fan of female comedians. But
it depends. It really just depends on what, again,
because it seems like it all comes back to like period jokes and things like that.
Jokes or relationship jokes. Yeah. And the men thing, it's the same thing. When they're talking about women, it's periods and fucking relationships. Yeah. It's like,
I get it.
You know what I mean? Life is Worth Losing, and It's Bad for You. Those last two specials of his were awesome.
Yeah.
It's Bad for You is funny as hell. But he always did his little greatest hits bits in there too. So you're always going to get the 10 Commandments joke and don't need 10. You just let's see if we can streamline this, and he streamlines it down to 1. And
Dave Chappelle's last special was fucking hilarious.
Was it?
Though.
See, I haven't seen that, and he's an exception.
Absolutely fucking hilarious.
See, Dave Chappelle would be an exception to what I was saying about modern comedians.
Yeah. There was a lot of shit I was like, ooh, shit, I can't believe you said that.
Well, he got in a lot of trouble for it.
Yeah,
too.
He did.
But see, that's what we need. We need that kind of
like in the first 5 minutes, there was pedophile jokes and things like that. And it's like,
and see, that's the kind of thing that Carlin would do too. If he was still alive, he'd be making those jokes too.
I make pedophile jokes and people get fucking mad at me.
Well, it's all in delivery, Nick. It's not about the joke itself. It's how it's delivered.
I know.
So, I swear to God,
because I love dark.
Me too, and that's one of the things that have always appealed to me with Carlin too. Is like I said, his jokes were nihilistic. He may have been nihilistic in real life too, and to some degree he was. But his joke about television, he goes, I don't watch NASCAR because I want to watch people make left turns for 4 hours. I watch it to see the fucking races. I want to see fucking people fucking die. The nihilistic side of that. And again, it's all in delivery. I can't do that. I can't make that funny. He can make that funny. Yeah. But I started to say before I said that, I have no idea how you've not been called into HR 1,000 times already.
Why is that?
I don't know, because you sometimes
what?
You just say things and do things, and I'm like, if you were a politician, you'd have to get up on stage and say I'm spending more time with my family now.
So there was an instance recently at work.
It's not even just that.
Hold on. Where there's a nurse who I was in another area, and there was 5 of us having this having a conversation about a person that another nurse worked with at another hospital that had the same name as the nurse one of the nurses I was staying there, and it was almost like a fat name, right? They called her Big and then her name, right? And we had it was a whole 15-minute conversation. We had a big old laugh about it. The one nurse even was calling herself that. And then I went over another area where I was working with Ian for a little while, and that same nurse came by, and I said that name to her, and I thought Ian was going to fall out of the fucking chair. He was so up in arms. I basically was using a fat term for this nurse. Right?
I just know it's more. I can't be more offended than she is, and she wasn't offended.
No, because we had a big old laugh about it.
Right.
And then the next
my point was it
days,
doesn't matter how offended she is to other people. If other people hear that,
other people need to fucking get over themselves.
I agree, but that's
what's wrong with fucking society.
I wasn't falling out of my chair because I was insulted. Because, like I said, I can't. There's no way I could ever be more insulted than anyone who's the joke is towards.
But that happens all the fucking.
But that's the problem.
That drives me crazy. It's
other people.
People bitch and complain about things, and I'm like, oh, well, was the person that was said to, were they upset about it? And they're like, well, no. Well, why do you fucking care about it then?
Right. And that's the thing. I wasn't offended on her behalf because she was laughing. I was more worried that someone else would be offended because you said it. And it doesn't matter if she was offended.
I know. It's
you know what I mean?
Fucking society we live in now.
Right. Because if you had said that to her on the street, I would have laughed. I would have been like, that's funny. At work is a different story. I mean, it's not like we work in a little general store where there's only 3 employees and it doesn't really fucking matter.
No, we work in
work in a big university where there's a lot of people.
The liberal bastion that it is.
Oh, it is not a liberal bastion. It is not.
More so than a lot of other places.
Maybe more so than other places.
I came from construction, which was the complete fucking opposite.
And to be fair, from where I came from, it's probably slightly more liberal than that, but it's nowhere near as liberal as I would have hoped it would be.
Well, no. When you have a large number of people in an area, it's not
a liberal
outside
bastion.
of Berkeley.
The problem is it's a hospital situation. It is government funded, so it's held to a certain higher standard by that. Because it gets government money, and there's just a lot of people. Yeah. So there's
a lot of personalities.
It has to add. It also has to adhere to societal standards, maybe even to a higher degree than some other places.
And you know what? People say things to me.
Do they offend you, Nick?
No, they don't offend me, but I don't know. Other people could take great offense to some of the things people said to me.
And to be fair, if other people had heard some of the things that were said to you and took offense to them on your behalf, those other people could have ended up in.
I mean, I've had things that are like borderline sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Thrown at me.
Yeah.
But whatever.
It's not about you.
I find it flattering, but you know, some people don't. When I say, "Hey, baby, nice tits," I get in trouble. No, I'm joking. I would never say that.
He's never said that. Right.
Never say that.
But my point is it's not about how offended you are or how offended they are. It's about how offended somebody else is around you who has no bearing on the situation, but feels they have to put themselves in it.
We had a nurse almost get fired because he was joking around with another nurse, and
someone overheard it.
Someone overheard it and was offended.
Yeah.
For somebody else, and someone almost lost their job over it.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that situation.
I understand.
Yeah.
Crazy fucking people.
And I don't think he's ever been the same since.
No.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate because, you know, we used to cut up and have a good time.
Yeah. But anyway, I get him not being the same because at that point you're scared you're going to lose your job just for opening your mouth.
Yeah.
But that's my point. That was the only reason he brought it up. It's just like,
Carlin excelled at that.
Yes, he did. But I also, you had brought up work, and I was, on your behalf, I was just like, you don't say that at work, because I don't even curse at work. I can't
tell how many times I've had somebody say something to me.
Right, but that part of my brain shuts off, just automatically. I don't even control it; just shuts off. I mean, now, there's been times where it slipped out a little bit, but generally speaking, it shut off.
Yeah.
When I'm at work, I don't talk about people. Nothing.
Yeah,
nothing sexual.
I don't talk about people at work either.
But there's no sexual jokes, no cursing, nothing. It's all
boring.
I'm boring at work because I don't want to risk losing my job because of something I said.
Yeah,
it's scary.
I guess I look at it this way. I was looking for a job when I found this one. So
yeah, well. I found this one because of you, and it's infinitely better than the job I had before, so I don't want to risk it, and I'm not qualified to do anything better than this, so no, I can't afford to lose this job at this point now. Not for another 6 years.
Why 6 years?
Because that's how long that car loan is.
Oh.
So.
All right, man, but I don't have anything else. You got anything else to add to our little conversation?
I would say...
I think it's interesting that we both found people that had bigger influences on society than maybe a lot of
above and beyond what
people
give
them credit for.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it's probably a little easier to explore Carlin than it is Jackie Robinson because, like I said, you can find all this shit on Spotify.
Well, yeah,
YouTube.
it's kind of hard to research someone that died, 40 years ago. So.
Right. Well, yeah, and Carlin's only been gone 12, so. No. But still, and most of his stuff is on YouTube and all that. One of his best specials, in my opinion, was his 40th anniversary special.
I think I remember that one.
Because it was like an hour with him just sitting there talking to Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller kind of interviewing him.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But then the rest of the show was his stand-up. So it was like you kind of got the best of both worlds. It was almost like a 2.5 hour long special, and it was really good. But I think that was like 2002 or something like that, or 2000. I don't know. It might have even been 98.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. Yeah,
88, 99, 99. Because I said that he started his comic career in 59. So yeah. So that's if you can find that on YouTube, the whole thing, the whole special.
That's cool.
So, but with Jackie Robinson, it'd be a little bit more difficult. But I think, we just did come out of Black History Month. And it's never really necessary to limit that kind of stuff to just 1 month.
Oh, absolutely.
I think people in general should probably
when it comes to things like race and segregation, should always be ongoing conversations.
Regardless of how good of a player he was or what other things he did in the sports or in that sport, he broke down barriers.
No, absolutely.
Regardless.
Absolutely.
And, he did that as a matter of race, and I think Carlin did it as a matter of just thinking outside the box, thinking about things more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very cool.
Well, that's all I got, man.
That's all I got, too.
Well, any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjailpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter or Facebook and all that jazz.
6-star reviews, people.
Yeah, leave us some 5-star reviews because 6 stars isn't a thing unless you're living in Ian's make-believe world.
You give us the 5 stars, and then when you give us an actual review, give us an extra fucking star.
We've got reviews.
Then give us a fucking extra star. But here's the 6 star for you.
That's weird. How about this?
I don't ask for much from our fans.
Do it this way. Leave us a 5-star review and then leave us another 1-star review and just leave the 1-star review and say, because Ian sucks. Just do that. Or you can go on Ian's...
Don't do the 1-star. It'll affect our listeners.
That's what I was going to say. Go on any of Ian's social media accounts.
Yes.
And just leave him a comment on there and tell him he sucks.
Please do. Please do. Anytime. It's always open.
Where can people find you online, Ian?
On Facebook.
At...
I don't think we've ever said our full names on the show, have we?
Yeah, our full names are on our show, Ian Trumbo.
Well, just go to the Life in General site and say something nice there, and then you can link to me from there.
Don't say it on the Life in General site because Ian doesn't fucking see any of
No, but say something nice there. But you can link to me from that, right?
No.
Oh. I don't feel comfortable saying my full name on the radio.
Well, your full name is on every single episode that goes out, Ian.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh.
If you go on and just search Ian Trumbo, your name your show.
Well, you just said it for me, so I don't have to.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. It just sounds.
That's like the third time in 2 minutes I said your full name.
Well, there. I don't. Why are you having me say it then? You can find me on social media and say anything you want to me.
Sure.
Please do. I like it. I want.
What?
I welcome the challenge.
You don't use Twitter or anything, do you?
Not really. I
have
it. I don't use it.
You don't use Instagram.
I'm going to start using Instagram more, but I haven't yet.
And you don't really use Facebook.
I'm on Facebook all the time, though.
So what social media do you use?
I don't really use any of them, but I review Facebook daily.
Which social media should you use? All of it to promote our fucking show.
Hey, for the record, I have shared and liked every one of our episodes for the last month. I went
you said last month.
months, many months.
People, we've been doing this show for 3 fucking years. 3 years.
I went on Facebook to show somebody a picture that I posted back in October of 2018, and I was scrolling down, and it was nothing but Life in General posts. Nothing but.
Good.
So I've been doing my share.
Good. That's not your share.
I show up. I give you my opinions.
I call that
are golden.
I call that the bare minimum.
I give you my opinions that are golden opinions that are
people
ideas that are genius.
I'm spending what little free time I have making 3-minute long videos of our show that I can post on Instagram and things like that. And then there's Ian just hitting share. Hey, I'm doing my part. There's
been several where I've actually typed out messages too.
Oh my gosh.
So
several?
Several.
Wow.
I know.
Out of 114 episodes, you've had several.
For many reasons. This is why you will go to heaven and I will not.
Oh, whatever.
There's
many other reasons besides that.
That's right. Not really. I've lived a pretty clean life by comparison to you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty clean. I haven't done all the drugs and stuff that you've done.
Oh, whatever. You're so full of shit.
I haven't. Seriously. What drugs have I done that you haven't?
I don't know.
Nothing. The only drug I've ever done is weed.
Smoked a lot of pole.
Oh, no. I guess. Sure.
All right. Well, that's all I got, people. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Playing my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two GoPros, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub. Hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles. We mosh at the party that